Good evening, and thank you for joining us. The Bobcats have been flying, Jack, lately, really another sure sign of it there. We've got the Player of the Week.
Yeah, Tyler Briggs, Player of the Week for the AJHL. Things were looking grim when he had that ankle injury to start the year, but he has come back and he is flying. We have that in sports.
Right. Look forward to that, definitely. Gerard, tell me it's going to be a nice weekend, please.
Yeah, gosh, we've been saying that all week. It's just that we needed to get through the past 24 hours or so. And we've done that pretty well, all things being equal. 10 is where we got to today, even with the cloud cover. It looked a little on the, cloudy side this morning. 54% is that humidity. The winds have been northwest, west-northwest generally, gusting at one point, getting up to almost about 33 to nearly 40 kilometers an hour, but it's down to 18 right about now. And as we compare across the region, Cold Lake and area, similar story for that 11. And in the Battleford's more overcast for the greater part of the day. Finally, it's clearing off and they've been able to ease it on up to 10. We'll have a full look at the weather picture for the weekend, of course, coming your way in the second segment.
Today, the Edmonton Police Service confirmed that 2 men found dead in an SUV in a city cemetery Tuesday were both killed by multiple gunshots. The victims have been identified as Trevor Greenway and Jason Trundle, both from Lloydminster. Homicide investigators are saying it was not a random act. Greenway is well known to police, having been sentenced in 2004 to 3 years in prison for a charge of impaired driving causing death and possession of a stolen vehicle. Then in 2009, he was sentenced to 2 years for trafficking cocaine and 9 months concurrent for an aggravated assault in an alley behind a Lloydminster bar. But his roommate says Greenway was trying to turn his life around and wasn't sure why he was in the city this week.
I just know, I knew that he was going to Edmonton. I thought it was a little weird when he didn't text me for the whole day, and then it was the next day that I had found out the bad news.
Height was actually working when he got the call about his best friend's death.
And could tell that the boss wasn't joking when he let me know, because you could see it in his face. And had no service where I was, so I drove to get some cell phone service, and I came back to the rig, and I just left for the day.
And Height admits he knows very little about the circumstances surrounding his roommate's murder.
And personally, I believe he was meeting with somebody that he thought he knew or trusted, and apparently didn't.
Police in Edmonton have released few details, but Newcap News has learned that members of the Edmonton Police Service's Homicide Unit were in Lloydminster meeting with local RCMP. Neither service would comment on that meeting. The other victim, Jason Trundle, has family in Lloydminster, but when contacted by Newcap, they declined to be interviewed. Local MP Leon Benoit finished a round of town hall meetings this morning. Traditionally, these discussions are held in community centres, but during this tour, he decided to hold them in the local high schools and invite the students. Whitney Stinson was there.
I'll tell you what you can do.
Before taking off to Ottawa for the fall session, Benoit wanted to give the public an avenue to express their comments and concerns. Adding in a younger crowd brought out a few fresher topics.
The students cover the same questions that are covered in town halls, but they focus on some different issues, like a lot of focus on social media. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube.
In the last federal election, only 25% of people under the age of 25 bothered to vote. Benoit asked the kids what he could do to reverse that trend.
Basically what students said is that you're not connecting. But it seemed to me that the basic information for some reason isn't going to them. And part of the reason is we haven't used the social media enough.
On the fall agenda is a new justice bill aiming to protect children from predators and get tougher on violent offenders and organized crime.
Some of these things we've already passed legislation in our first 5 years in government. Others we couldn't pass with the opposition we had. So now we have the numbers, so we will pass them.
He'll also be debating free trade agreements he hopes will be good for the economy and bringing in a new copyright legislation.
Our copyright legislation is meant to ensure that intellectual property is properly protected at the same time as allowing the public access.
That was a topic that came up around the discussions of social media here with the students. Benoit hopes even if the teens weren't impressed by the Conservative fall agenda, they'll have the information to make future decisions around voting.
To get them to realize that whether you like politics or not, it is really important in your lives. And your involvement in politics, it's easy. You can vote. You can get involved with a political party, whatever your choice is when it comes to a political party. And if you do get involved, you can have a real impact.
Whitney Stinson, Newcap News.
Lloydminster Fire Department held an open house last night to conclude this year's Fire Prevention Week. The night was open to all ages and anyone who had questions or concerns.
Well, the big part with the open house is that it draws the kids, which brings the adults. And And otherwise, the adults tend not to ask a question. So if they're here with their kids, then probably that question does get asked.
Wade Tokarek, who came with his family, feels it's always important to teach people how to prevent and deal with fires.
Well, it's important to know where the services are in town and what kind of trucks we have available. Like the one thing I found out today that I didn't know about is that this ladder truck can go 3 levels high, which means that it can do any of the taller buildings in Lloyd.
The fire department also stresses that it's crucial to always check your fire detectors and make sure your appliances are unplugged when not in use. Thanksgiving behind us now, many people are starting to think about Christmas. Operation Christmas Child is counting on people to be in the spirit of giving after the holiday weekend, and they've launched their shoebox campaign already. Whitney Stinson has that story.
Ken Hastings has been hard at work assembling these boxes for people in the community to pick up and fill. Over the last 11 years, Lloydminster has sent out over 33,000 of these gifts to kids in underprivileged countries. You can pick up yours at Southridge Community Church, the Dollar Store, or Versus, then start your shopping.
I would encourage you first to put a toy in. That is the most important. When the child opens that box, that toy will stay with them for a long, long time.
He also says you should put in a postcard or picture of your family along with a short note or letter to the child and their family.
And that is something that the entire family will treasure. I have seen and heard stories of children keeping letters for up to 10 or 12 years before someone in their village could translate that letter into their language. It is just so precious, and it puts the personal connection.
The rest can be filled with school supplies, personal hygiene items, and hard candies. There are 3 age groups you can shop for: 2 to 4, 5 to 9, and 10 to 14.
Is fill a shoebox and keep in mind someone that they know. Maybe they have a son or daughter, a niece or nephew, a friend's acquaintance child, and picture them, if they're 5 to 9, fill a shoebox with them in mind, because children around the world are much the same.
For most of the children getting these boxes, this will be one of the only presents they will have ever received. Many of the children have never had the opportunity to leave their home village. In turn, the gift is something they will keep forever.
I have been in those situations and seen the incredible glimmer of joy and hope that shoebox has, where the child for the very first time realizes that this is a big world, beyond, much bigger than their village or valley, and that somebody in a far distant country cares enough about them to give them a gift.
The deadline to hand in your box is November 27th. Whitney Stinson, Newcap News.
Members of the Lloydminster Figure Skating Club have been able to take advantage of several special programs this year to enhance their training facility. Thanks to community support through fundraising events, the club has held spring and fall schools and brought in guest coaches to instruct different clinics. Kathy Lee has the story.
Each of these skaters are usually taught by one coach, but many of them agree bringing in guest instructors adds to their training.
You get one coach's perspective on something, but to have others, it gives you way more ideas.
Echoing that sentiment, the Lloydminster Skating Club has really pushed to get more experts to come in to help their students.
We want to have a higher standard of training overall. We want other clubs to be able to say, hey, you know what, Lloyd Skating Club is really good. We've learned the coaches know their stuff here. They're having clinics.
We're lucky that we are a big enough club and we can hold clinics and stuff. We can have other clubs come and join us as well, and we're very fortunate to have people come in and give us better training.
But these special clinics don't come with a free price tag, and it's through fundraising events like their upcoming comedy night that the club can support the classes.
It helps with all aspects of our club, ice times, competitions, those kinds of things. But we've been running some special things, like we had a spring school and a fall school this year.
Having additional clinics hosted on home ice allows skaters around the region to have access to quality training without the travel time.
So that kids in this region don't have to go to Edmonton or Saskatoon to get the specialized training that they need for this kind of a sport.
And even if some of the skaters aren't aiming to go to the Olympics one day, being able to have a facility to train in allows them to do what they love.
It gives you time to socialize, to make friends, to try new things.
Kathy Lee, Newcap News.
For more information or to purchase tickets for the Lloyd Skating Club's Comedy Night, you can call 780-872-3078.